first time I took my little boy to the ocean, our beach umbrella flew away. A little bit later, I rented bikes for us and Jim Thorpe. We both lost control. I actually fell off of mine. Every single time I tried to do an outdoor activity with my kid, it ended in a dismal fail. It didn't matter if we hiked down the road at Ridley Park or we drove all the way to Bushkill, he was miserable. And camping was a hard, fast no. So when my brother and his then fiance offered to vacation with us one summer, I was over the moon because I would have adult support and we could actually make outdoor things fun. And the idea for the trip was phenomenal. We were going to take a road trip and show Jordan the Mississippi River, the mighty Mississippi, Huck Finn. And we were going to do it all. We were going to horseback ride, tube, boat, fish, and we were going to camp. We were going to show this kid that sleeping outside could be so much fun. So we rented this funky car called an Aztec, and we were off. And the first state we decided that we would camp in was West Virginia. And the entire time, we're winding our way up this mountain road. We're regaling him with stories of our beloved camping trips. And Jordan is politely silent. When we get to the campsite, we get out of the car and we realize it's really much later in the day than we had hoped. And there's no time to throw a Frisbee or just chill out. We really just need to get to it. So Mike and Carrie are going to work on the fire and I'm prepping the food. And again, the whole time I'm making the food, I'm saying, Jordan, you just don't know what it's like to have steak and potatoes over a fire. And then when it gets dark, you're going to see stars you've never seen before. And then we're going to make s'mores and we're going to tell stories around the campfire. And the whole time, I can see out of the corner of my eye that there is no fire. There's smoke, but there's no fire. So finally, my brother comes over and he admits that the firewood we bought is really wet and we're never going to get it lit. And sadly, we will not be having that steak tonight. And Jordan is silent. He said, you know, we're actually losing daylight, so what we really need to do is just get the tent built. So now I'm sitting with Jordan and I'm silent too as we watch Mike and Carrie. And you have to understand, they're New Yorkers. They are master IKEA builders, all right? They can't get the tent up. Until finally, a park ranger took pity and got out of his cruiser and came over and said, you need this tent up before it gets dark, let me help you. So we did end up with a tent. We had a tent that we could painfully see now was meant for 2 people. You know where this is headed, right? The heavens opened up and it poured. Torrential, Noah's Ark rain. And the 4 of us are squished into this little tiny tent. And I don't remember any laughter. I don't remember us trying to rise above the circumstances. I just remember 4 people squished into their own private misery as they watched the river run through it. Because I don't know what we did wrong, but we had a gush of water all night. Now, here's the part I've never told my family, so I'm going to be really sad when they watch this, but I had on these sandals that I loved. They were walking sandals, but for some reason, when the leather got wet, they really smelled, like really bad. And I didn't have the heart to take my shoes off. They're already miserable. So I spent the night in my sandals, and I don't remember sleeping. About dawn, I already have my shoes on, so I sneaked out of the tent, and I went to the bathroom. And I wasn't there very long until my sister-in-law showed up, and she came in, and I looked at her, and we both started to laugh and cry at the same time. And she put her arms around me, and she said, Cindy, you know this kid's never going to camp again in his life, right? So it was with palpable guilt the next morning that we broke camp, and we put that soaking wet tent into the bag and into the trunk. And we went to a diner, and now we are 4 silent people sitting around a table. Waitress came over and said, do you want coffee? I said, yes, put it on the table and leave it there. Okay. At which point my brother said, okay, that's it. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to get a motel room for like 1 hour. It's worth it. We'll shower, we'll put on dry clothes, everything's going to be fine. And that's what we did. And by the time we were finished changing clothes, we were buddies again. But I will tell you this. when we saw the luxurious chateau on the lake that we had booked in Missouri, 3 adults simultaneously made the decision to extend our stay. And we did not try to camp again that entire trip. We left the tent in the bag in the trunk. And I handed it to my friend that I borrowed it from without telling him anything about it. And here's the irony of parenting. When my son was older and it was time to choose a college, he insisted he had to go to Vermont. Vermont. He left my house, this clean-shaven, baby-faced boy, and he came back with a full, thick beard and a red plaid flannel shirt. And he has been rolling around in the great outdoors ever since, okay? And when we reminisce about this story, he always laughs and he says, "You, Mike and Carrie, felt so guilty that night." And here's the thing. I don't remember paying any attention to any of you. I had a new game on my Game Boy. And when you and Carrie were still in the diner and Mike and I were in the car, without saying a word, Michael took out his wallet and gave me a $100 bill. And when I asked him why, he said, "Dude, that's for not complaining once that entire night." Okay? Now, I was telling this story to a friend, and she was like, "Jordan, you're such an outdoorsy person. You hike all the time." And he said, "Yes, I do, but I've never been camping."